Welcome back, everybody, to Two Average Guys, episode number 9 this week. Closing in on the, just halfway through, just a little bit past halfway through college football here, and got some more stuff to talk about this week. So, first thing we want to talk about is last week. So, we only picked 2 games last week, and we probably should have picked a lot more.
Probably should have picked more.
There's a lot that happened this week, and it was pretty exciting.
We talked about maybe picking a couple other ones, but on paper they just didn't seem right.
It didn't seem like a good matchup.
Yeah.
So we had, first off, we had Florida went to Georgia.
Yeah.
They were at neutral site.
Yeah, they played the Florida Georgia line, yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Ryan, for reminding me halfway during the week. Florida goes into Georgia. I picked Georgia. I was picking the big upset there. I was hoping Georgia would win because I hate Florida. I can't say anything bad about Florida. They're playing pretty well, but I just don't like them. Hoping for an upset. Once again, Bulldogs haven't had Nick Chubb for a while, and they're missing him a lot. So Florida goes in and they beat him pretty good.
Yeah, it wasn't very close. At one point, I think it was like 20-0.
I think 27-3 or something was the final score, if I remember correct. So not a blowout, but also not a good game for Georgia. So Florida wins that game. The other one we had was Temple, Notre Dame. Notre Dame went into Temple.
Lucky.
You might say lucky. So they ended up winning the game. It got sealed on a late interception by Notre Dame. Temple had the ball, a chance to go down the field and score. I think there was a minute 20-something left when they got the ball left.
I think Notre Dame scored with like 2:09 left.
Okay, so they had a decent amount of time left to score. This was probably one of the best games of college football this weekend. There were a few good ones, but this is probably one of the best. Not very many people see Temple being able to keep up with a team like, high-profile team like Notre Dame. Undefeated Temple, at home, hostile environment. Notre Dame went in there, and they both played their hearts out. I said I took Notre Dame in that game, but I said it was going to be, like you said, a hostile environment, and the place would be rocking and everything. But I didn't think that that Temple was going to have enough talent to hang with Notre Dame. I thought they'd maybe hang with them for the first half into the third quarter, but then Notre Dame would run away with it. Close game, good game. Temple proved a lot.
Temple didn't drop very far in the rankings, and I don't think they should have.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that they were going to have a run to the national championship or anything.
No. But big story of that game was Kaiser, Deshaun Kaiser for Notre Dame. Without him, he came in as backup this year. And he's now the starter, has been since, what's his name got hurt?
Virginia game.
Zaire got hurt. So Kaiser's in, and he threw for 299 yards and 1 TD, had 2 interceptions, so not the best as far as throwing, but 299 yards, pretty good. And he also had 2 rushing TDs, 143 yards rushing. I mean, all-purpose yards, led the team, and pretty much ran the game. He won the game.
Well, and I will say that Temple's defense is what kept him in the game. I mean, I know that, like you said, he got a lot of yards and stuff, but Temple's defense was keeping him in the game. I mean, 24-20 game.
They had a couple of goal line stands too.
Yeah,
inside the 5.
kept him to field goals.
Yeah.
I was kind of flipping it back and forth and keeping up with it on my phone, and I'd see that Notre Dame was inside the 20, and I'd check back a little bit later, and then I got a field goal.
Yep.
And so it was good game.
Good game. That's a big win for Notre Dame, playing against a ranked team, which they needed that to keep their playoff hopes alive. Really needed to play that, plus playing on the road against the ranked team. That was a big game for them. And now they got Pitt this next week, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But Pitt lost to North Carolina. That was our Thursday night game. Pitt was ranked 21. Pitt needed to stay ranked for Notre Dame, but doesn't mean it's a bad thing. They're going to have to show up against Pitt and really whoop them good, though.
Because they're going on the road to
They're going on the road again.
Yeah.
So North Carolina is now, I believe, 7-1, and they beat Pitt this weekend. So North Carolina's having a good season.
Yeah, they could.
And they jumped back into the rankings this weekend.
Mix it up in the ACC. I mean, there's Clemson undefeated and Florida State with one loss, and North Carolina's right up there.
You never know what can happen there. So North Carolina, typically known for basketball, but their football team's playing pretty well. TCU, no surprise they killed West Virginia this week. Baylor killed West Virginia last week, I believe. So Baylor was off this week. TCU wins, goes in, kills West Virginia.
Boykin had a really good game.
Boykin's having
tearing it up.
He had a first couple rough weeks, but he's been playing really well lately. Keeping his Heisman hopes alive.
Yeah, we'll talk Heisman stuff. We can maybe talk Heisman stuff in a little bit, but he had a good game.
Yep. So Clemson Clemson had a big win over NC State. So Clemson went to NC State. They won 56-41. Big story of that was Deshaun Watson, quarterback, had a hell of a game. He really rallied that Clemson team to come back and stay in the game because NC State was running that game and controlling it for the most part. Second half, it was still close. I think Clemson might have even been down at half.
No, I think they were up at half. It was like 22-16 or something at half.
Close.
Something around there. I don't know.
Close game. So NC State kept it pretty close. A lot of people, some people even had Clemson in as the underdog going into that game because it's at NC State. And historically, NC State likes to ruin people's runs at the championships.
It's kind of funny.
They come in, they played well at home.
I don't know the last time. I mean, I don't know if NC State's been to any BCS games or anything, but they seem to have a lot of guys go to the NFL and guys that they always upset teams.
Yeah.
I kind of like teams like that.
But Clemson's still a strong team. They stay at number 3 this week, and they're looking at possible playoff spot, which we'll know.
They could be number one. They could be number 1 in the playoffs with rankings. And
we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We already talked about Pitt losing at North Carolina on Thursday night. UCLA barely squeezed by Colorado Buffalo, which Colorado, typically you don't hear about them playing very well at all, at least recently. They won 35-31. I didn't see that game.
It was 31-28 late. Colorado scored late. I think UCLA scored, I don't know.
Late touchdown. Cool. So, good for them. UCLA wins again. Oklahoma State drilled Texas Tech. No surprise here. Oklahoma State still undefeated, ranked number 12. Talk about that in a second, but they're ranked number 12.
They put up 70 points on the road.
70 points on the road. So that's a big win for them. Michigan squeezes by Minnesota 29-26. Another big game in the Big Ten. Close game for Michigan. Minnesota's no joke, ladies and gentlemen. That was a good game.
Minnesota, their coach, Jerry Kill, retired. He's a great coach. Due to health reasons, his epilepsy, his seizures, everything. Feel bad for him because he's a good guy.
It is not the first time they've had to have an interim coach.
Yeah, he had.
I think it's the same coach.
The last couple of years, he's had to take leave. Leave. But they were probably fired up at home to maybe win a game for their coach. Yeah. They wanted to win. They had a chance to kick a field goal to send it to overtime. I don't know if they would have won in overtime, but they wanted to win the game. And goal line stand. 2 seconds left. So.
Yeah, Michigan squeezes out another win. Good for them. Minnesota, hang in there. We're going to talk about your game this next week here coming up. Iowa stays undefeated. So Iowa wins again. They beat Maryland, which Maryland sucks, but still, Iowa goes in and they win again. Staying undefeated is not easy to do.
They had a pick 6 in the fourth quarter. They, I watched a little bit. I just watched towards the end of the game. But their defense is really good.
Yep.
Maryland's quarterback could run. He couldn't throw very well, but their defense, and they can run the ball. They just kind of chip away at you and play good defense.
Yeah.
It's nothing pretty, but as we found out, I mean, if you win all your games and you're in a Power 5 conference, you should be in contention for a playoff spot.
And hear this now. Iowa, I'm calling it now. Jason, this one's for you. We kind of chatted about it on Facebook earlier. If Iowa goes to the Big Ten championship game, I don't care who they play. Michigan State, Ohio State, Michigan. I don't know who it's going to be yet. Whoever they play in that game, I'm telling you, Iowa's going to win this year.
You think so?
I don't like Iowa. I have never cheered for Iowa, never will in my life, but if they make it to that championship game, Jason, I'm cheering for them. I think they got what it takes this year. They have one of the best teams they've had
since 2009 when they went to a BCS
6 years.
game.
So I'm really pulling for Iowa this year, mainly because Nebraska sucks right now. So go Iowa, and I hate Ohio State. Michigan State will be my next choice, but they might play them. So we'll see.
My thing is, it'll be interesting to see where the playoff committee puts them, because with last year, they put Florida State at number 1 when the first rankings came out. And then they didn't have very good wins from there on out, from then on out, and they kept dropping them so that they ended 3rd or 4th or whatever. Iowa hasn't had a lot of pretty wins, but they're undefeated. And there's only a handful of teams left, left for them to play. But I'm kind of interested to see where they put them in the first playoff rankings.
Yeah.
Because in the AP rankings, they're still behind a couple teams with 1 loss. So I don't know. It'll be fun to see on Tuesday.
That's the AP, so we'll see what happens Tuesday.
AP doesn't mean anything starting Tuesday.
Stanford squeaks out a win over Washington State, 30-28. Now, I could not stay up for this game last night. It was 12:30 when I went to bed, and halftime just got over. I could, even with the time change, I couldn't stay up anymore. I was tired. Halloween tired me out. So Stanford wins 30-28. They scored a late TD. Washington State had a chance at a field goal.
43-yard field goal, I think it was.
43-yard field goal to win the game.
That time expired and they missed.
They missed. Hell of a game by Washington State. That game would have sucked to play in. It was raining so hard.
Yeah.
Raining really hard. McCaffrey couldn't get his feet underneath him. He had a rough game, but not because he didn't play well. It's because Washington State played well against him.
And I had mentioned that we should maybe pick that game, but like I said, when you look at it, it didn't really seem like it was that great. But we keep getting these late night, Saturday night at Pac-12 games.
Hogan was only like 10 for 19 in that game. They didn't throw the ball that much, and he was their leading rusher, which tells you how McCaffrey did not have a good night. But only 19 throws, so Stanford defense really stood out in that game and helped secure that win over Washington State. But that was probably the second best game this weekend. Third best game this weekend is Duke-Miami. So Duke, I was really pulling for Duke in this game, and they got hosed by the ACC refs, which are now suspended along with the replay officials. For those of you who haven't seen the play, we'll post it on our Facebook page and our Twitter.
I said it might have even been crazier than the Michigan State play from 2 weeks ago.
I'd say it was.
And the Florida State Georgia Tech game from last week.
So dude's knee was down before he lateraled. They're saying, was it simultaneous? No, they took almost 10 minutes to review that play, and they still came up saying that no one's knee on the entire Miami team was down. Blocks in the back, and a dude running on the field, helmet in hand like this, running onto the field at like the 10-yard line for Miami. You can't do that when a play is going on. That should have been a penalty too.
And if you haven't seen it, watch the video. They show the officials come out and say, it was determined that his knee wasn't down. But it's going to go to further review. And you're just like, what?
Yeah, they screwed that up so bad. I 100% agree with the suspension. I wish it was possible to give Duke that win because they deserve it. They really deserve that win, and they get screwed now out of the top 25.
And they were ranked, and they only had one loss, or maybe they had. Did they have one or two?
I think they had one loss. Now they have two.
So,
I mean that hurts.
Yeah.
When you're talking about getting to a bowl game,
their coach didn't look very happy.
Or no, I think they're 6-2 now. They were 6-1, I think.
Okay.
So now they're 6-2. So either way, they get a bowl game, but going 7-1 is much better than 6-2, and it moves you up in the rankings a little farther. So. They got screwed in the ACC. Look for more information on that. I guarantee we're going to hear more during the week. So, one last thing real quick before we look at the top 10 and look at one quick thing I want to say about the Huskers, and then we'll look at our games moving next week. So,
what do you got?
JT Barrett. What a moron. You get the starting job. You have finally get the starting job with Cordell Jones. Should have had it a long time ago if you ask me. And then you go and get an OVI.
Whatever OVI means.
AKA a DUI, but they classify it as operating a vehicle while intoxicated. Cordell Jones, he got released to Cordell Jones, which is kind of funny.
I know, I thought, hey, maybe Cordell is like, hey, I want the starting job.
So it's a little funny.
I'll ride with you.
So here's what happens when you're a privileged college football athlete. Now, we've seen this in the history of college football. We've seen it with Husker players. We've seen it with Florida State players. We saw Manziel and Winston get favored in a lot of stuff that should not have gone their way, especially when it comes to off-field incidents. JT Barrett blew a .099, and I read in the paper, they said legally, if you're under the age of 21, .02 is legal for someone under the age of 21. But when you're under the age of 21, drinking is illegal anyways.
Yeah.
So how is that .02 legal? I don't know. Anyways,
regardless, it was a .08.
.08 is legal for of-age drinkers or anybody. It's that's the legal limit is .08. He was .099, so he gets released to a player. He doesn't get taken to jail, which that's fine. Doesn't get detained. I don't care. That's fine. But gets suspended for one game, gets charged with a misdemeanor, and he's only going to miss the Minnesota game. Now, football is just a secondary to life. What ticks me off about this is everybody talking about it on ESPN. They're all like, all they talk about is did he blow his chance at starting his next game? What about his future he's lucky he didn't get a DUI. I don't know what the difference is between OBI and DUI as far as what's going to cost him. I know he has to go to some treatment. He's got to do mandatory, I don't know, not AA, but some mandatory stuff.
Probably.
But it's not a mandatory 2-week suspension
Probably
because
fine.
of their alcohol and drug abuse policy. If it was charged as a felony, it would have been automatic 2-week suspension from sports, plus more than that. So he's only missing 1 game. But to me, this is more about teaching him a lesson than anything else. Let's suspend him for probably 2 games. You're on the number 1 team, national football team, or number 1 NCAA team. You're not going to get punished when you're on your own state. Oh, JT Barrett, I can't give you any more than an OBI here because I don't want you to miss any more games.
DUI is a felony.
Yeah.
Like, straight up. So, why it wasn't
In
a
most-
DUI,
in
I
most
don't
states.
know. Well, I guess
Every state's a little different,
but
once again, when you're a college football athlete, especially playing for the number 1 ranked team in the country, we've seen it in the past with Manziel and Winston and other players. Dominican Sue a while ago, he avoided a squirrel and ran into like 4 cars, and he didn't get cited.
I think it was a dog, but I heard some insight on that, and
there's no way he wasn't drunk.
it was favored. Yeah,
people get away with stuff when you're a college athlete. You and I, if that would happen to us, dude, we'd probably be behind bars, or at least be released to our parents. So we wouldn't get released to a teammate, or to some family member, whatever. So I don't know. I wish they wouldn't focus so much on football. They focus on what the hell are you thinking?
Or they at least take you to the police station.
Yeah, but
Not just like, oh yeah, here's your ticket. You just go on your merry way.
Dude, JT Barrett at Ohio State, get a freaking ride.
Yeah.
Walk home. Call somebody.
Call a Lyft or an Uber.
Call Uber. They'd probably give you a ride for free.
Yeah.
So
if it was somebody like a college student or something,
yeah,
probably think it was awesome.
So I just think unfortunate for Barrett. And it's funny because they showed his picture on ESPN last night next to Cordell Jones, kind of comparing some stats. He looked high as shit in that picture. He looked high and drunk in his picture. So I don't know. Maybe the kid's got a problem, but it sucks for him. And I wish that they would have maybe made more of a deal out of the fact that he was drinking and driving over the fact that he's not starting against Minnesota. Who gives a shit? You were drinking and driving. Put a lot of people in danger.
That was kind of a surprise to me that happened. I mean, another college kids that you're on number 1 team in the country. You have a bye week. You want to party a little bit, but
so now he doesn't get to start against Minnesota. Cordell Jones. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll talk about the game in a little bit. So, real quick on Nebraska. The only thing I want to say about that.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the game
because we sucked. We lost. It's okay. It's not okay, but. The only thing I noticed difference between watching the Husker game and watching any other college football game, and I've noticed this throughout the entire year with the Huskers, not only do you never see any other coaches for Nebraska during the broadcast talk to any of the kids on the team, you never see Mike Riley talk to any of the guys on the team.
Like, whether he's like
upset, happy,
or like high five, like good work.
The only time I saw it yesterday was when Lewis came off the field after or it was after the fumble, the high snap, and Riker Fife went to pick it up instead of jump on it, and that Lewis made the tackle. That was the only time I have seen the entire year where Mike Riley shook a guy's hand on the team. No emotion. I don't see the other coaches talking to the players. I don't know if there's a disconnect between the coaches and the players. There might be a huge disconnect, and that could be a big problem. That has been
talked about, yeah.
That could be a big problem in the chemistry of the coaching and the players right now. And I noticed that yesterday, and I took note of that just because other teams, you see a lot of energy, you see a lot of fire on the sidelines, not just from the head coach, but you see it from the assistant coaches.
A big play happens, and they come off, and you show something that. Some acknowledgement to the kids that they did something.
I haven't seen that from the coaching staff in general, and that has kind of drove me nuts. But one thing I saw after the game, and I saw someone posted a video of it. They didn't show it on ESPN. Someone posted a video, and I saw it on Facebook. Jack Gangwish.
I saw it, yeah.
Gangwish went into the stands to thank all the fans for coming.
Yeah.
That, to me, this is why Husker fans stick around, not for the coaches.
Yeah.
We stick around for the players that are there playing the hard time. Gangwish
is
had
a walk-on.
good game.
Yeah, and he's a walk-on from Nebraska.
He goes out saying thank you to all the fans that are there, that we're still there.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool to me, and that's why I'm still a Husker fan. I will bleed red till the day I die.
Me too. I mean,
well, scarlet red, not regular blood red.
This season obviously is kind of a bust for Nebraska, but
fans, always next year.
Fans, yeah. No,
So that's all I really want to say about the game. I
that's all we
thought it was
got.
really
We're
cool
not
with
saying,
the
I'm not
English.
saying anything else. About
Yeah, I
it.
would like to see a little more coach interaction on the sideline.
Okay.
All right, so after last week, we talked about the 2 games we picked last week with Notre Dame at Temple and Florida Georgia playing at a neutral site. We are now tied with our picks, 21 to 19, which we both kind of suck right now, but
We're over 500.
we're
And
over
this has
500.
been a crazy year of college football.
Next week is going to be crazy, so let's talk about that in a second. Let's talk about our top 10. So we still have Ohio State, Baylor, Clemson, number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Nothing changed except for Notre Dame.
Nah.
Notre Dame moved up. Excuse me. Notre Dame and Stanford flipped.
That was it.
Stanford's
Not
now
much
9.
of a
Notre
change.
Dame's number 8. Notre Dame, well deserved. They are doing what they need to do to get to where they need to be. A lot of things need to happen ahead of them. Baylor, Clemson, or Baylor, TCU still play each other. LSU, Bama will play next week.
Play this week.
Um,
this next week.
Yeah, this upcoming week. So those are 2
Michigan
big,
State and
so
Ohio
2 big
State still
games.
have to play.
Michigan State, Ohio State still play, and Michigan plays Ohio State.
And Notre Dame still plays Stanford. So.
And Notre Dame's got Stanford. So there's a lot of games coming forward, and this could actually help Iowa depending on what happens in those games.
For
those big
sure,
matchups.
they're going to be undefeated when they play Nebraska. They will be undefeated when they play Nebraska.
I believe so. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So, and what so Iowa's 10, 11 is Florida. They didn't move. Oklahoma State is still number 12, and they're undefeated. So you have Notre Dame, Alabama, and Stanford. Florida, did they have a loss?
No, Florida has a loss.
Florida has
They
a
lost it by 7 to LSU.
That's right. So there's 3 teams ahead of them with a loss, but Oklahoma State, the Big 12, the only 2 teams in the Big 12 that are noteworthy. I mean, Oklahoma whooped the crap out of whoever they played. Oh, Kansas. Yeah, Kansas. They should stick to basketball. But Oklahoma is not. I'd take them out of the picture. But Oklahoma State.
They play TCU this week.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State and
It's a big
TCU
game.
plays. We'll talk about that one.
So Oklahoma State's still undefeated. We saw a lot
I
of
know
undefeated
that
teams.
they're still at 12, but with Florida previously being ranked ahead of them already, and they won big over Georgia or whatever, I don't see how they could have jumped them. But
I don't think they have a chance, only because of what's in front of them and TCU and Baylor.
like we said, that come Tuesday, you can cross that off and throw it away.
And we're gonna do another special show on Tuesday, a short one about the playoff.
Yeah,
So
I
that's all we're gonna talk about is the playoff,
Yeah.
nothing else on Tuesday night. So maybe Wednesday, depending on how late that goes.
I'm not
So,
sure what time it's at.
No idea. So next week's games,
There's some good ones. We've had 2 bad weeks in a row.
we got who should be ranked, Duke, going to North Carolina. So North Carolina just upset Pitt. That's a good game.
That would have been a good game. I mean, it's still going to be a good game, but if they both would have been ranked, that would
It's
have
a
been.
big ACC matchup, Duke at North Carolina. So they got at home. Duke's going to come in pissed off after that game last week. They should have another win on their season, and they got screwed. I think Duke's coming in with the win on that one.
You're going to take Duke on that, huh?
I got Duke.
All right, I will take North Carolina. They played a previously ranked Pittsburgh team last week on Thursday night. I think they went on the road and punched them in the mouth. I mean, they were winning. The score looked close. They only won by 7, but I think Pitt scored a late touchdown right at the end, and they were down by 15, and they got the 2-point conversion or whatever. But I'll take NC, kind of just because I want to go against you.
I think it'll be a good game, though. I mean,
It will be,
it's anybody's game. Big game for both of us.
I will say that the ACC this year is a lot better than it has been the last couple of years. The last couple of years, it's been Florida State, Clemson, and then just drop off. I know Duke's been okay the last couple of years, but good for you, ACC.
Number 8 Notre Dame goes to Pitt. Now, once again, Pitt is not ranked anymore, but I don't think that's going to go necessarily against Notre Dame because they were just ranked, but it might. So Notre Dame goes to Pitt. Pitt just lost to North Carolina. North Carolina jumps in the ranks to number 21. Pitt drops out of the top 25. I don't think Notre Dame's, if Kaiser keeps playing the way he is, there's no way Notre Dame's going to lose this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. Don't like to do it, but I'll take them. Pittsburgh, when Notre Dame went to the national championship in 2012, they played Pittsburgh that season, and Pittsburgh played tough. And it was like 17-17. Notre Dame got a late field goal and won or something like that. I think it's going to be a game kind of like that. At least I hope it is, just because it's fun. Maybe give Pitt a chance to win the game.
They might.
But I think that'll be a good game.
I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to come down to the wire, and we'll see how ProSize plays in that game. They didn't play it. They didn't have much for him this last week. I mean, Kaiser controlled the run game. They had a couple of times inside the 10-yard line where they weren't using ProSize because he wasn't having a good game. So
they got Fuller. Fuller's been doing
and
pretty
Fuller's
well.
been doing pretty well. So we'll see what happens. Next game, we got number 17 Florida State at number 3 Clemson. Now, for those of you, if you remember last year, Clemson should have won that game. McGuire came in because Winston was suspended. McGuire had a hell of a game this week. And what's his name?
He was awesome.
Who's the backup running back?
I don't know who the backup running back is. Cook was out for Florida State, but he had a good game.
Cook was out, but the backup running back had a good game. McGuire had a hell of a good game, and his arm is looking good. McGuire, if he's still playing this week against Clemson, it's going to be a battle between him and Deshaun Watson. I think that's going to be a really good game, a lot better than what a lot of people are thinking it's going to be.
Jimbo Fisher, I guess, is a tough decision. I know Everett Golson had concussion, so I don't know if he's going to. I don't know how long he's supposed to be out for. I know Golson hasn't thrown. He's only maybe thrown 1 interception all season, but McGuire looked damn good yesterday, and the stats showed it. And
So you got
where's it at?
Florida State, Clemson. You got 2 backups.
I'm going to take Clemson because I want Clemson to win, so then I can cheer for him.
I'm taking Clemson. I think they're going to win. I think it's going to be a close game. Judging by what's happened in the previous weeks with both teams, Clemson struggled a little bit in the beginning yesterday, but then they had a great second half. They came out explosive. Deshaun Watson, he's a darn good quarterback. I think he's going to win that game for him, but I think it's going to be close. Next game, we got number 5 TCU at number 12 Oklahoma State. This is a game we're just talking about. Not going to lie, Boykin's playing some of the best football he's ever played. He struggled the first 3-4 weeks of the season. He was kind of on and off. I think TCU, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and destroy Oklahoma State.
I like Oklahoma State. Since Nebraska left the Big 12, I have kind of... Because I don't like a lot of teams from Texas, and the other teams in the Big 12 just aren't really very good. So I think TCU is going to win the game, but I'm going to take Oklahoma State.
He's taking the upset. So we got clash of 2 undefeateds. That should be a good game. So let's see what happens there. And that's at Oklahoma State, folks. So at the Cowboys.
One of the reasons I'm going to take them.
All right, now we got Minnesota at number 1 Ohio State. So we got Cordell Jones coming back in to start. Ezekiel Elliott still in the backfield. Minnesota, new coach, interim coach, coached them well against Michigan. Number 1 team in the country. No JT Barrett this week. Only Cordell. They can't bring in a backup unless they turn Braxton Miller back into quarterback here. It's possible, but
Well, if he gets hurt, if Cordell Jones gets hurt, then I assume that they would play Braxton Miller at quarterback.
I would think so. So I'm taking Minnesota. I am thinking that Minnesota. It's at Ohio State. That makes it kind of tough to pick Minnesota, but Minnesota's got nothing to lose. I mean, their season's pretty much over, but they want to get into a bowl game.
Yeah, I gotcha.
They're 4-4. They want 2 more wins. They want to get into a bowl game. This would be a huge win not only for the program. They should go in there winning it for Jerry Kill, because you know he still wants to be out there coaching. They want him as a coach. Interim is he's a great coach as well, but they're going to go in and they're going to show Ohio State what they're made of.
That's a great story that you just told, but I think
good stories, man.
I think Cordell Jones is gonna be like, "Hey, man, this is my second chance. I had my chance and I didn't do anything with it. Now, because of this circumstance, I get my chance. I'm gonna come out in the night game at home, in my element. I think he's gonna light it up. I think they're gonna light him up.
I think he's going to throw at least 2 picks. Just calling it right now.
I don't like Ohio State by any means. I mean, I would love for Minnesota to go in and beat them. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah,
I just think that they're going to beat them.
I really hope Minnesota wins. I'm picking a huge upset there. So if I win that, maybe we should put some money on it. I don't know. Number 4, LSU. At number 7, Alabama. This has been talked about for a few weeks now. A lot of sports centers, all those people are talking about it. I think it's going to be one of the best games of the year. At Alabama,
Unfortunately,
LSU's
it's
hot.
at Alabama.
They got Fournette, but you're also going against one of the top rush defenses in the country in Alabama. So how does LSU come into Alabama? What are they going to do?
You know, that is a good point you made, that Alabama does have one of the best rushing defenses in the country, and that's what LSU does is run. Fournette.
But they got a good quarterback too.
Yeah,
can throw the ball.
Yeah, that's true. I certainly like LSU, and I want them to win the SEC and have Alabama not sniff anywhere near that playoff. Which, if LSU wins, Alabama with 2 losses, there'd take something pretty significant to happen for them to make a playoff spot after that. I'm going to take LSU. I think that they, if Alabama's up and pretty high in those rankings come Tuesday, I'm going to be a little upset because they lost to Ole Miss, who has 2 bad losses after that.
Yep.
But I'm taking LSU.
I got LSU too. Now, last year when I was in Texas and we were talking about, I think after the couple of first playoff polls came out, we were a little pissed off because we didn't think Alabama was deserving of where they were. And I was mentioning to you, this sucks. You know, this is my thought on it, and that's why I was like, this is my opinion. We're just average guys with opinions.
That's how 2 average guys got started.
And you're like, holy shit, that was awesome. And I'm like, I just came up with that. And that's how the whole got started. But the reason why I really got ticked off was because Alabama was squeaking their way up the rankings slowly.
After a loss.
And I really didn't think that they should have been where they were. Now, it's not like Ole Miss is killing it right now.
And Ole Miss was killing it last year.
Yeah. So
for a while.
Yeah. So Ole Miss beat Alabama. They got way overrated after that. I don't think that Bama is. I don't think they're a bad team. I don't think they're as good as what people are thinking. I don't think their coaches have the chemistry that they need to be successful. Lane Kiffin and what's his name? I always forget his name. Kiffin and Saban don't get along very well, especially when they're not playing well. I don't think Bama's going to win this game. I think LSU has a chip on their shoulder. They really want to make it to that playoff. I don't think Bama deserves to be there. Everyone on ESPN seems to think they are because they're Bama and it's Nick Saban. That's what it is. Bama's going to get that 4th spot no matter what happens. You know, if they think they're going to beat LSU. I highly disagree. LSU's going to go in to Tuscaloosa and they're going to win that game.
Last year, when the first playoff rankings came out, there was 3 SEC teams in the top 4. It was Mississippi State was number 1, I believe.
Yep.
I think Ole Miss was in there because they had beaten Alabama, and maybe LSU. I'm not sure who it was. I was reading something earlier. I'm not sure who the other team was. I just remember
3 or 4. Yep.
Mississippi State was the number 1 seed, and I was like, oh man, that's crazy. They were high on the state of Mississippi last year, and they ended up losing a couple games at the end. It'll be interesting to see.
It's anyone's game this next week. This next week could determine a lot moving forward.
It definitely will. There's a lot of big matchups.
This Tuesday is going to be interesting, but I think the following Tuesday for the playoff committee is going to be more interesting. Obviously, we have our thoughts, we have our opinion. We're going to keep sharing them with you, and hopefully, you have some good insight and share your thoughts and opinions with us. Heisman.
Okay, you can talk Heisman.
Heisman. I still think Fournette's going to be up there. I don't see how he wouldn't be number 1. And Boykin might be number 1 now with the way he's been playing the last 2 weeks. So you still got Boykin, you still got Fournette. I still think McCaffrey's up there. He had an off week, but Boykin's had an off week.
Yeah.
Everyone has an off week, but I still think McCaffrey's up there. I think those are your top 3. Do you have anybody else you put in there?
With the quarterbacks bouncing back and forth at Ohio State, and Ezekiel Elliott not having as good of a season as predicted. Yeah. Baylor's had guys hurt. I know their running backs had a decent season.
Well, and Russell's hurt, so he's out.
Maybe Clemson quarterback.
Yeah, Watson. Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
He might be up there.
He could be up there.
And honestly, you might even throw Deshaun Kaiser in there right now for the way he's been playing the last few weeks.
I wouldn't disagree.
I think he'd be maybe number 5 on the list if he's in there at all. But, after this last weekend, you can't say anything about 299 yards passing, 143 yards rushing, and combined 3 TDs. So he might even be in the mix for the Heisman.
So, give me your projected top 4.
All right, my top 4. This is what I think it should be.
In order, or just?
I'm just not in order.
Not in order, just your top 4.
Unless you want me to do in order.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I might do mine in order. But,
okay, let's do in order.
Well, yeah, okay.
I'm doing in order.
Either way, I think the 4 teams I'm going to throw out, I think, are going to be in there in somewhat of an order.
I think number 1 is.
I know it's going to be tough.
I think number 1, Clemson.
Okay.
Throwing Clemson number 1. Write this down.
Write this down because I want to match. I want to look at
Number
it on
1.
Tuesday.
Hold on, here we go. So number 1, Clemson. I'm gonna say number 2. Number 2, LSU. Number 2, LSU. Number 3, Baylor. And number 4, Ohio State.
Okay.
So Clemson, LSU, Baylor, Ohio State. So not what the top 4 are in the rankings right on the AP. But like we said, screw the AP. It doesn't matter going forward. So we won't even talk about the AP going forward because it doesn't matter right now.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Clemson at number 1, just like you did.
Okay.
Actually, yours is pretty close to what I was gonna do, but I will do LSU at number 2.
Okay.
I'm gonna do TCU at number 3
Ooh.
and Baylor at number 4.
Okay.
I don't think that, and I'm sure they probably will throw Ohio State in there. I'll probably be wrong, but I just don't think that they've had that significant of wins.
No.
I think the other teams that I picked, I think TCU and Baylor have shown more than them, and the reason I probably would have put Baylor even at number 2 or 3, but the playoff committee does take into account injuries and things like that, which is different than the computers. That's why Baylor is at number 2. They don't know. The computers don't know anything about injuries. They don't know the quarterback's hurt. Baylor might not even be in the top 4. I don't know.
The only reason why I would have Ohio State as number 4, I wanted to put TCU there. I put Ohio State there because that's what I think they're going to put.
Well, I think
if I had it my way, I think TCU would be number 4.
They probably will, mainly because they won the national championship last year,
they're in love with them.
And they're undefeated. So I mean, I see why you wouldn't. I mean, I don't see how you couldn't put them in there. But Florida State had won the national championship, and they were undefeated at the end of the season.
Yeah,
and they weren't even in the top couple spots. So
so we'll see. Those are our top 4 moving into the Tuesday tomorrow or 2 days from now. So once again, we will have another show coming up, depending on how late it is on Tuesday. We'll either have it on Tuesday or we'll have it on Wednesday for you. So stay tuned for us.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the top 4 teams, and we'll talk about the top 10, I guess.
Yeah.
And see kind of how different that is than the AP top 10 and what it is looking like or setting up to look like for. Because it could be number 2 LSU against number 5 Alabama this week, not 4 against 7 or whatever it is.
You just never know. And our shows are going to get shorter because moving forward, we'll focus more on the
games
AP. They're not the AP, sorry, the
football
playoff poll.
And we'll probably focus more on games that are going to make a difference for the playoff.
And there are some big ones coming up. So there's some more big ones with TCU playing Baylor. That's going to be a big one coming up. So we have a lot more to talk about.
Plus, we're probably not going to be talking too much about Nebraska unless they upset one of these undefeated teams. So
unless we beat Michigan State or Iowa. So we'll see what happens. Anything else you got?
I get to watch the whole game this week, so maybe we will upset them. This will be the first game I get to watch the whole game. Now I have to go back and rewatch it. So
go Big Red.
Oh, we get to watch it live.
Go Big Red. Bleed Husker.
We always, as always, go Big Red.
It sucks, but every once in a while you got to have it really down here. So
just so you can pick yourself back up.
You guys got anything else for us? Once again, comment on Facebook, comment on Twitter. We're out there. We'll reply. If you have any questions, shoot them our way. If you have any thoughts on the show, let us know. And hopefully we'll be talking to you soon. All right. Good show. Thanks for watching.
See you next week.